Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So I assume I'm audible. Yeah. So I said earlier in the email that today being Shankara Jayanti, I will say a few words about Shankara. But as I started thinking about it, and it struck me, how can one just stop by saying just a few words about Shankara on Shankara Jayanti, that too. So we will devote most of the time, if not the entire time, to recall who Shankara is. And my father has decided to sit down also. So he's sitting right in front of me here, behind the laptop. So he's also giving me some inspiration. So what amazes me is those of us who have been studying the Shastra have, of course, know about Adi Shankaracharya. And those who have not studied the Shastra have heard about Adi Shankaracharya also. May not know much what he did and all, we may not know, but we've heard, no doubt. And somebody said, looked at, oh, Adi Shankaracharya, oh, big Mahan. Somebody said some time ago when they saw the picture. But he didn't know anything about Shankaracharya. Just know he's a Mahan, that's all. Like Vivekananda, oh yeah, big name, but may not know anything about what he accomplished. But despite all that, our textbooks, when I studied anyway, didn't say anything, not a word about Adi Shankaracharya was mentioned. So today I'll also, towards the concluding part of this discussion, I will mention also the relevance. I want to talk about the relevance of Adi Shankaracharya to all of us and to Indians, to India. Like that, I want to say a few words. So I think many of us know already, Shankaracharya was born in Kaladi, and the date of birth is Kaladi is in Kerala, about 1.5 hours from Cochin, and the year of birth is refuted, and we were told long ago it was in the 8th century, so sometime in the 760, 770, 780 current era. That's what we were told, but then due to more research, we hear that it could be as old as 2,500 years old, which is 500 BCE. Okay? So just be aware that there are these, the debate is still going on. And he was born, his parents Shiva Guru and Aryamba, they prayed to Lord Shiva for a son, and they got the blessing from Shiva and said, do you want a son who lives 100 years? Or do you want a son most brilliant and most intelligent, and he will just revive the Shastras and the whole world will know him? But he will only live for a short time. So less than just only 3 decades. Do you want that? So it's a tough call for a mother and a father to hear this kind of a blessing, Who doesn't want a long life for their child? But yet they said, no, we want this intelligent child. And so that's how the story goes. Shankara was born. And then what Swami Viditatmanandaji said was, he said, by the age of 2, he had learned Malayalam. By the age of 3, he had learned Sanskrit. By the age of 5, he had studied the Vedas. By the age of 7, he finished the Veda Patashala, because Vedas, Vedangas are all there. So there's a lot to study. So a couple of more years, he finished the Veda Patashala. He graduated from there. Age of 8, he got sannyasa. That story of this crocodile catching hold of the leg of Shankara must have happened at the age of 8. So he got sannyasa then. And then he continues to study until 12. He finishes the study of Upanishads, finishes the study of Brahma Sutra. Remember, when somebody is in a Veda Patashala, they need not be studying the Upanishads. Veda Patashala means Veda Parayanam will be there. Some tarka, logic and all can be there. And of course, some discussions will be there, but they will not get deeply into Upanishads and so forth. So karma, mostly a lot of karma. Remember now, karma kanda and jnana kanda. Now that you know what that is, karma kanda is the big topic in the Veda Patashalas. So after sannyasa, given to further study, that's when they study the Upanishads, Vedanta, in other words. So Brahma Sutram comes in, Veda Vyasas, Brahma Sutram, and then he studied all this. And then from 12 to 16, he travels. He travels and he completes this, he writes the Bhashya. He writes commentaries on Upanishads, on Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutra. So by 16, he has done all this, by the age of 16. So I mentioned this earlier, I don't mind repeating it. There is something called Prasthanatrayi. You all need to know that. Prasthanatrayi means 3 fundamental books of Vedanta. If you want to call it books, there aren't books, but 3 fundamental granthas, texts of Vedanta. What are the 3? First one is Upanishads. Upanishads are many in number, but we focus on the Upanishads that Shankaracharya commented on. And that's, so if you go to a bookstore, you would find things like, titles like the Principal Upanishads. Principal Upanishads. Who decides that an Upanishad is a principal Upanishad? Principal means important, primary, something like that. Well, an Upanishad that is commented upon by Shankaracharya is considered to be a principal Upanishad. So that's how we have 10 principal Upanishads, because Shankaracharya commented on those 10. Ishakena Kata, Prashna, Mundaka Mandukya Taittari, Aitreyancha Chandogyam, Brihadaranyakam, Dasha. Like that, there is a verse that helps us memorize that. Anyway, so Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutra. That's it. This is the Prasthanatrayi. These are the main texts which form the foundation of Vedanta. So he wrote the Bhashyam on all these things by the time he was 16. And then the story goes further and says, I think he was supposed to die by that time. But then Vedavyasa comes, and then there is some dialogue between the two. And then Vedavyasa says, I'll give you 16 more years. Something like that. There is a story. I don't know the story that well. And so he starts off on a journey called Big Vijaya. And then there is all the travels, and he's teaching, and he's debating and so forth. This is a huge story. I'll come to that a bit later. So that's his short history, and then he passes away. He gains samadhi when he was 32. And of course, we must mention his guru. In the age of 8, after sannyasa or before sannyasa, he met his guru, Govinda Bhagavatpad. And near Narmada in Madhya Pradesh. That's where he met his guru. So this day is called Shankara Jayanti. The word Jayanti we are very familiar with. So we have Krishna Jayanti, we have Gandhi Jayanti. So like this we have many Jayantis. Jayanti, the word is used to indicate the time of birth of somebody who had passed away. When Gandhiji was alive, we may have celebrated his birthday, but we wouldn't have called it Gandhi Jayanti. So, Gandhi Janma Dinam. That's all. Jayanti means the person has passed away. And so Ramanavami is also Rama Jayanti. And so the avatara. So these avatars means people who are bigger than what they were, what their body was. A lot bigger, so big that we remember them long after they are gone. So such people or such entities or such devatas are remembered through this event called the Jayanti of that person and or that avatar. So if we know about Shankara, the more we know about it, we can't even call him a person. I feel very shy, very awkward referring to Shankaracharya as a person. I think you can understand that. So this particular subject that we are talking about, Advaita, is a unique subject in that the person who is teaching the subject is not different than the subject. The person who is teaching Advaita is not different than the subject Advaita also. This statement you cannot make with any other subject. Any other subject. The computer science, the teacher of computer science is not a computer. Neither is that teacher computer science. The teacher of microbiology is not a microbe. Neither does the teacher of microbiology want to become a microbe. No. But here it's different. We've learned now that Advaita means unfolding a fact that this Jagat is Mithya and Brahma is Satyam and Aham Brahmasmi. That Satyam is I. This is just a few word summary of entire Advaita. And that Brahma is the teacher also. Therefore, we say that Guru, who is a Guru in our definition now? Guru is one who unfolds the non-difference between Jiva and Ishvara, non-difference between Atma and Brahma, and that person is referred to us as a Guru. And so this Adi Shankaracharya, being who he was, and such an important avatara in our Sampradaya. So many people have taught Vedanta. Every generation there were thousands of teachers who taught. Yet we say Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyama. Asmadacharya Paryantam, you said. Vande Guru Parampara. So that Parampara, that Guru Parampara, in which this Shankaracharya has a very unique position because of his contribution. So during those times, we hear from our acharyas that the people were all very committed to rituals, karma. Remember, you have to now recall karma kanda and jnana kanda, correct? Pravrityatmaka Shastram and Nivrityatmaka Shastram. Now you know all these words. So I have the liberty to use these words because we talked about it. So the Pravrityatmaka Shastram, Karma Kanda. So you have to do certain rituals for achieving certain ends. And the more you do, the more devoted you are, and the more you will get. Nothing is a waste. And so this was the setup. And Shankaracharya found that the final message of the Vedas was lost during his life, in the society that he observed. And so he decided that he has to do something. He felt like he had to do something. And so that's what must have made all this come out of him. And so he was the one who showed that karma has a place, but karma cannot really give moksha. Only jnanam can give moksha. You have spent a lot of time on karma kanda. You have forgotten jnana kanda. Nobody is studying Upanishads. You are doing, it's called Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa. Another term I'm giving you now for karma kanda and jnana kanda. You may hear this word, Purva Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa means the first and the karma portion of the Vedas. So that was the time, and so he took up to the teaching of the Upanishads, teaching of the Advaita Tattva. Okay. So therefore he is what we call an Upadhi Vishesha. So there was a question about Upadhi and so forth. So the body becomes an Upadhi. And Shankara's form, if you can imagine a form, that form is the avatara, the Upadhi. And Upadhi Vishesha means it's a very special form that has come to bless humanity. That is the way we look at Shankara. And so the amount of output, if I can use a very, very raw word called output, that has come out of him in terms of all these texts that he has written, which I'll mention shortly. That we infer from the shlokas, like Shruti Smriti Purananam, Alayam Karunalayam. So Alayam, he is the repository of the Shruti, the Smriti and the Puranas. How can he be the repository? Puranas were written by Veda Vyasa. Shruti means Vedas. Vedas were written long before Adi Shankaracharya. What has Shankaracharya got to do with the Vedas? And then Smriti. Bring in Smriti. Smriti, Bhagavad Gita was not written by Adi Shankaracharya. Bhagavad Gita is Smriti, correct? And Brahma Sutra, Prasthanatraya, one of the Prasthanatraya, is written by Veda Vyasa. And here we say Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam. He is the abode of all these things. Because that shows how much he was needed to unfold the message of all these granthas, all these texts. And then Karunalayam. Alayam is there and then Karunalayam, correct? The shloka itself, now that we have chanted it so many times. Karunalayam, he is a repository of Karuna. So I used to wonder when I first heard these shlokas, repository of Karuna means he is very compassionate. Like that. It's a simple translation. But why do we say he is a Karunalayam? He is the embodiment of Karuna. See, first of all, a jnani is not obligated to do anything. Okay, this is one thing we have to understand. Not obligated to do anything. And so we cannot criticize somebody, oh, he's a sannyasi and then he doesn't do anything to society. Hey, just by being a sannyasi, he does a lot to society. She does a lot to society, correct? Just the person's presence itself makes a change in the society. That itself we have to recognize. Sometimes we can't forget that. We shouldn't forget that. Sometimes we think only active people, people who are running in and out and flying in and out, they are doing something. And what have we done after flying so many countries, right? So, so, so here, Karunalayam, despite all that, he chose to write all these texts and he chose to travel. In a minute, I'll talk about that. And he contributed so much that today, if we are studying Advaita, today, if we are hearing Advaita from somebody, it is directly because of Adi Shankaracharya. Especially considering the traumatic past India has had. So, so many centuries of Mughal rule, which pretty much devastated us. And it is just a surprise that we are, and following that, we've got 200 years of great British rule, which people say brought us a lot of humanity and a lot of wisdom. But really, what wisdom we have learned to salute very well, but we really are not aware of what we knew before. So if I did not study Adi Shankaracharya in my school, I have to ask why. Why was I not taught about it? So it's that kind of a person, and he was able to do all this. That is only possible because of daya that he had. So he saw society like that and he felt that he could do something, and he did. Therefore, this shloka refers to him as Karunalayam. Karunalayam Namami. So Karunalayam Namami. So one of the things, the biggest contribution of Shankara is writing commentaries. Even studying Bhagavad Gita. I say even because studying the Upanishads are Veda mantras. Veda mantras are harder to understand. Already the words are a little cryptic, number one. And number two, the grammar also is somehow, there is sometimes some unique grammar that the Vedas take certain liberties. Like when you talk to children in your language, and we won't say, are you going to eat food now or what? We won't say that. So, mammu sapadriya, mammu. Hey, mammu is not a word in Tamil. Sapadu sapadriya is okay. What mammu? Where does mammu come from? Mammu is a very, when you talk to a small kid, you use kiddish words, right? And words that very sweet words we use, cuddly words we use. And these words don't exist in the dictionary at all. Like that, the Vedas uses certain words. I don't mean to say they are kiddish words, but it is not confined to any grammar. And so you can't look up the dictionary and say, what is the meaning of this? So you definitely need an Adi Shankaracharya to unfold all the mantras. And he does that. He does that. So when we study the Veda mantras, we have to open Shankaracharya's book. We have to keep it in the side. Otherwise, we won't make any progress. That is one thing. That is why I said even Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is not like the Veda mantras. And there the grammar is pakka. And we have been doing Anvaya Vitireka, right? Anvaya of all the slokas. So all that we are doing. But in Veda mantras, it's not so easy to do. Not so easy. We will do Anvaya, but not so easy. Some words we have to make some assumptions and things like that. So that Bhagavad Gita, to understand itself, we need Shankaracharya's help. And we are actually following it without actually referring to Shankaracharya. We are following his Bhashyam. So there, when he writes the Bhashyam, So you look at all of you now have seen Bhagavad Gita book so many times. We may not have studied it completely, but verse by verse by verse we are going. So Shankaracharya, the way he explains it, these shlokas, he will explain words. He will go word by word, exactly as it appears, and he will explain words where it is needed. He will define the word, and like Pandita, right? Sochya Nanva Sochastam Prajnavadamscha Bhashase Gatasu na Gatasoscha Nanu Sochanti Pandita. He explains what Pandita is. Panda Jnanam Asya Asti Iti Pandita. Like that he will say. And that one who has Panda, namely knowledge, is called a Pandita. Like that he will explain. So where there is room for ambiguity, he will explain. Okay. So word by word he explains. Need not be all words. He won't explain all words. Some things he will assume that you know. And then he may explain the entire sentence. He may explain the implication of the sentence. He may explain the whole shloka, and then he will say, the final implication of the shloka is this. Like that he will say. Like this Dehinosmin Yatha Dehe Kaumaram Yavvanam Jara Tatha Dehantara Prapti Dhiras Tatran Mukhyati. So this Deha is Anitya. Ityartha. It is subject to time, so it's not permanent, this body. And I am somebody who goes through these things and will jump to another body because I am permanent. So like that he might summarize here and there. And then next shloka comes. What is the connection between the current shloka and the next shloka? There must be some logical connection. And so he will explain it. Sometimes it's not obvious. When we read the shloka, we keep on reading, we write the meaning of the words and we keep moving on. But we don't have time to think about what is the connection between the two shlokas. That also he will give. He may give an introduction to the chapter. He will give a summary to the chapter. He will pull, when some shloka comes, he will say, as we saw in the 4th chapter and in the 6th chapter, in these shlokas, and as was said in the dialogue between any two people, Narada and Sanat Kumara in Chandogya Upanishad, he will quote the verse. Shokam tarati atmavid. That is what Narada said. Shokam tarati atmavid. The knower of Atma crosses over sorrow. Means there is no more sorrow for a jnani. That is the meaning. So he will quote the Vedas when he is giving the bhash. So he will connect all the dots. And the way he quotes, you will wonder, my God, yeah, I also studied Chandogya, but I forgot everything. But Shankara is quoting. Those days, no computers, nothing, and he is just quoting. And Panini Sutras, once in a while, he quotes also. So that gives us the implication that Shankaracharya knows Dhatu Kocha, he knows Ashtadhyayi very well, because he is quoting it left and right. So I feel like saying a few more words, but it will get a bit technical. So he gives a holistic picture. So Shankara, we need to understand, no, without having studied these things, still I have to tell you. So he gives that kind of a picture, doesn't take anything for granted. And giving us the picture that what the Vedas says, what the Bhagavad Gita says, what Vedabhyasa says in Brahma Sutra, what everybody else says is all the same message. That point he makes it very clear. He doesn't leave anyone to doubt, leave anything to doubt. So that is why this sampradaya is important. This sampradaya, we have to understand what it means. Sampradaya means, so that teaching methodology comes. This is what I want to share with you. Teaching methodology itself comes when we learn Adi Shankaracharya. how a word has to be unfolded. What kind of misconceptions a student will have when I say something, when I use a word. Right? How much awareness is needed? I can't simply say something and walk away. The responsibility is there because the human mind is capable of so much. And so, what meanings should not be taken for a particular word, those should all be chopped off from your mind. And then what remains, that is the only meaning that you must take. So, this sampradaya is so important. That is why Sadashiva Samarambha, Shankaracharya Madhyama. Asmadacharya Parintam, Vande Guru Paramparam, like that we say. Okay, so that's some introduction about the way in which he wrote and how that benefits us and how that contributes to what is called as Sampradaya. So now let's look at the works he has done. And so we can say there are about 3 main types of works. Okay, first, of course, is Bhashyam. Bhashyam means commentary. Now, Bhashyam, Shankara writes a Bhashyam of the Bhagavad Gita. Then Anandagiri writes a commentary on Shankara's Bhashyam. Okay, so in the book I am referring to, that book, Shankara's Bhashyam will be there in Sanskrit. Okay, and then the page won't continue. It will stop right there. And then below that, Anandagiri's Tika, it's called Tika. Tika, which is commenting on Shankara's Bhashyam that was written on top of the page, is all explained here. And then it goes. Then you turn the page like this, and then you find again Shankara's Bhashyam is continuing, and then Tika continues. So the two people it's like 2 trains going parallel. And so, because sometimes we need that also. Shankara's Bhashyam is not enough. We have to, in order to understand Shankara's Bhashyam, some places where you don't understand something. The other day it happened in class, and Swamiji and I were talking, and we didn't quite follow one particular sloka in Bhagavad Gita, and Shankara's wordings were not fully clear. We said, okay, we need to go back and refer to Anandagiri's Tika. Let's see if he has said anything. And we came back. I came back, looked at Anandagiri Tika, and Anandagiri doesn't say anything. So now we have to scratch our head. We have to call somebody else. So beautiful. This is how it works. And so Bhashyam. Shankara writes Bhashyam of the 10 Upanishads, Bhashyam of Bhagavad Gita, and Bhashyam of Vyasa's Brahma Sutram. Very important text, an advanced text. Typically, we study Brahma Sutram after we have studied Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. So this is a primary work. Work number 1, Bhashyam. Second type of work he has done is, he has written his own texts in prose and in poetry, most of them in poetry. Atma Bodha, I remember the first text I studied of, without knowing who wrote it. Because the first time I heard all this, I was so excited. I picked up all books which had the word Atma, which had the word Vidya in it, which had the word Brahma in it. Everything, I just picked up the books and cassettes and just dumped it. Because there's no time to think about all this. As long as it is there in the bookstore and Swamiji has talked about it, I will buy it. So Atma Bodha I studied, and I learned that it was written by Shankaracharya. So beautiful text. So again, many verses, probably 100 verses are there in Atma Bodha. Maybe less, I don't remember now. So Atma Bodha is a text. Viveka Chudamani. Like this, there are many texts. Upadesha Sahasri. Some of you may even have read, definitely heard of, maybe even read this, heard these commentaries on these texts. So these are called Prakarana Granthas. Prakarana Granthas. They are not Shruti because it's not Veda. It has to come under the category of what? Smriti. Correct? I think by now you know what is the difference between Shruti and Smriti. Shruti refers only to the Vedas. So anything written by a human mind comes under the category of Smriti. So any non-Vedic composition is called Smriti. So this is Prakarana Grantha, a secondary text which comes under the category of Smriti. All the texts that Adi Shankaracharya had written. So Pratasmarana Stotram, and like this there are many Shatpadis there. And so I'm trying to recall some of the camps I attended where Swamiji Tattvavidanandaji, Swami Viditatmanandaji, Swami Dayanandaji, they all spoke about these texts. So that is Aparoksha Anubhuti, like that. So this is the second category of works of Shankaracharya. He wrote his own text. And there may be others who would have commented on those texts. There is always that. Any of us, if you are inspired enough and if you have studied the subject matter well, you are welcome to write, expound on Shankaracharya's. Take any book, Viveka Chudamani, suppose you like, then you can write a commentary on that. You are allowed to write. So, like that, we have many texts. Then the third category of works is he has written stotras on all our major devatas. So Shiva, Vishnu, Devi, Ganapati, Muruga, Subramanya, all this he has written stotras. And I actually looked up the book. I have a book which lists all the stotras. And I found about 70 or so, I think, if I remember right. So if you think of Shiva, you already have the famous Dakshinamurti Stotram. You have Ardhanarishwaraha Stotram. Then you have Shivananda Lahiri. Then you take Vishnu. You have Govindashtakam. You have Krishnashtakam. Like this the list goes. Then you have Ganapati. You know the famous Ganesha Pancharatnam. Mudakarattamodakam Sada Vimukti Sadakam. So that was written by Adi Shankaracharya. So now that you studied a little bit of Bhagavad Gita, you can begin to understand these things also. Mudakarattamodakam Sada Vimukti Sadakam. Sada Vimukti Sadakam. My worship of Ganesha will be a means for moksha. Correct? Sada Vimukti Sadaka. Sadhana for moksha, Vimukti. And then Sada. So like that, we will begin to see the meaning of these things. So someday I'm sure we will get an opportunity to do that. So Ganesha, Subramanya, you have Subramanya Bhujangam, long stotra is there. Then Guru itself, there are Guru Ashtakam, I think he's written. And then Guru Paduka Stotram, Ananta Samsara Samudratara, Ananta Samsara Samudratara, Naukayitabhyam, Guru Bhaktidabhyam. I went to YouTube the other day and typed this out. And there is a beautiful tune somebody has made, and there some small girl is singing it, and it's so beautiful to hear. Ananta Samsara Samudratara. So I started listening to it every day after that. And look at that. So now you can see the meaning. Ananta Samsara Samudratara. You can know the meaning of it now. Samudra, ocean. Samsara. I think by now you must be able to define what samsara is. Samsara is a life where life of becoming. If you recall that word, a life where I do something, I get something. Again, I do something, I get something. Then my satisfaction goes away. Then I have to do something, I have to get something. I do something, I get something. The only difference between you and me is what I do and what you do are different. That's all. But the point is we do. So I need to do something in order to be happy. Then I find it is not enough. I need to do something in order to be happy. Then I find it's not enough. I need to do something to be happy. This is called samsara. Okay. That samsara is a sagara. That's why it's a ananta samsara samudra. Sagara, right? So it's an ocean, it seems. Why it's an ananta? Why it's an ocean? It's an ocean because how many things one can do? If we ask, can we even count a list of things? You can keep counting, but there's no end to the counting. Therefore, it is like an ocean, and it is ananta because this life will not end. That is the meaning of ananta here. This kind of life will not end, because after this life, there's another life also. And and if I've done something good, maybe the next life is good, then I'll continue to do the same thing. So ananta samsara samudra. Then what? Tara. So tayarna. So tara. So crossing over. One who helps me cross over this kind of samudra, this kind of ocean, is my guru. And so, Namo Namah Shri Guru Padukabhyam. Like that, the sloka goes. Anyway, so you are all aware of many of these stotras, which Shankaracharya had written. And of course, Devi is there, Meenakshi Stotram is there, Karakadhara Stotram is there, Mahishasura Mardini Stotram is there, Ayigiri Nandini Nandita Medini Vishwa Vinodini Nandalute. And not easy Sanskrit there also. It's a bit, tongue twisters are there. And so we can immediately, there are certain markers. We can find out if Adi Shankaracharya has written something or not. And so Bhaja Govindam was there. For Bhaja Govindam, of course, is a different text. It's not a praise of Govinda. It is a text, it's a Vedantic text, really speaking. It's a Prakarana Grantha, not a Stotra. You can't chant Bhaja Govindam on Ramanavami, you can't do that. On Janmashtami, you can't chant Bhaja Govindam. Because Bhaja Govindam is meant for me, not to praise Krishna. Why? Hey, Mudamate, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja, hey, Mudamate, hey, stupid fellow. You are running after so many things, you think of Govinda. So you shouldn't chant this in front of Govinda. Or maybe if you want his Govinda, you can chant it and he's okay. He's accepting at least that he needs to praise me, think of me, etc. Anyway, so this list of stotras is written so much, and each stotra is just loaded with Vedanta. And even while praising Devi, you will find a lot of Vedanta. So sometimes you will hear people praising Shankaracharya because he saw a poor lady who didn't have anything, and she searched her home, and only thing she could find was an amla, this nellikai, gooseberry. And she gave the gooseberry to Adi Shankaracharya as Bhiksha. And Shankaracharya saw all of this, and he blessed her by writing this Kanakadhara Stotram, and all these gold coins fell. That's how great Shankaracharya is. This is what you will hear. But in our tradition, we say Shankaracharya is definitely compassionate, definitely great because of what he did to the lady, no doubt. But he's even greater because of all the contributions we talked about. Because this magic, we may be awed by magic, but our Shastram does not consider or give importance to magic. Because you can see all the, now Ramayana serial is going on. And now we have come to the end, of course. But a couple of months ago, there were a lot of these Kharas and Dushanas were floating around. And every time Rama and Lakshmana are turning around in the forest, there is some Khara, Dushana pointing arrows and then disappearing and appearing and all these things. So this disappearance, appearance, Indrajit did that. Lakshmana tries to fight Indrajit, and Indrajit is just not to be seen, and then he's smiling from somewhere else. So this magic and all that, Rakshasas themselves can do magic. So what is the big deal? Anybody can do some tapas and gain these magical skills. So we don't quote Kanakadara Stotram and then say that is why Shankaracharya is great. It's like saying why is Modi great person? Oh, because he wrote 10% of his salary during Corona season to the poor people. Is that what you will say? Hey, 10% of the salary, yeah, good. I'm glad he does that, or 20%, whatever. But he's great because of so many things. You've bestowed everything that is great about Modi, and you're telling something so small. So I just wanted to mention that because there is that idea out there. Okay, so this is all the text that he had written. Then of course, there's his travel throughout India. He has gone, he's known to have gone all the way to Kashmir and even north of Kashmir. Kamboja Desha is there. He is not known to have gone there, all the way up to north. And then of course, he's gone all the way to the south. And then of course, we know to the east, he set up the Govardhana Pita in Orissa. Correct? Govardhana Pita. And Padmapada became the first Acharya of Govardhana Pita. And then to the west, Dwaraka, who was the Acharya of Dwaraka. So Hasta Malaka became the Acharya, first Acharya of this Govardhana Pita. Then he went up to north, Badrinath, and Totaka Acharya, his third student, became the Acharya there. Came south to Karnataka, Sringeri was set up where Mandana Mishra, who was a Karmata, who was a Purva Mimamsa, had big arguments with Adi Shankaracharya at Mandana Mishra's home itself, where the referee was Mandana Mishra's wife. Correct? And so there was this nice story where both of them are wearing this garland of flowers, and whosoever flowers fade away fast, then that person is known to have lost the debate. That is just a beautiful way of saying it. But the debate itself was raging on for a long time, and these two parrots that were there in Mandana Mishra's home, they were saying, it seems, Swataf Pramanam, Parataf Pramanam. Swataf Pramanam, Parataf Pramanam. Swataf Pramanam, Parataf Pramanam. One parrot used to say Swataf Pramanam, another parrot used to say Parataf Pramanam. Swataf Pramanam means self-revealing. Vedas is a self-revealing Pramanam. It will, like the eyes will reveal what the forms are. You just have to operate it. Parataf Pramanam means no, Vedas are not enough. It won't reveal. You need something else to reveal the Vedas, etc. So this argument was going on, and these parrots were parroting it, I suppose. That's how the word parroting comes, I suppose. So Sureshwaracharya, that Mandana Mishra became Sureshwaracharya, became the first Acharya of Sringeri. And then, so this is all called Digvijaya. They call it Digvijaya. So so it's a victory. It's a victory walk, victory, what do you call it? Victory pilgrimage. Dik means directions. So all four directions, he went and established this matas. And so now, and final days were spent at Kedarnath, Badrinath. Now, a few words about the relevance of Shankaracharya to our life. Many parents, having studied Bhagavad Gita, having gotten exposed to our Shastram, they have come to me. One of their desires always was, how can I impress upon my children about the beauty of our Shastra, about the beauty of Bhagavad Gita? How can we get them to learn about this? This is it's a natural concern. comes for every parent. That means the question is, how do you make our Shastram relevant to our children, our teenagers, correct? How do you make it relevant? So that they also begin to appreciate it. So that's very important. Now, you look at the West, you look at America. Every country derives its greatness from its thinkers. From its thinkers, people who envisioned the country, people who had a vision for the people of the country. This is how it must be. Our constitution must be like this. The people should live a life, freedom of life, liberty, happiness, all this in America they have. That's a vision. If you look at, so the philosophers who were behind any country, so America draws its thought from Greek philosophers. If you look at our textbooks of the high school children of America, you'll find these things. And then if you look at the social sciences departments in the US, where they study, sociology, anthropology, philosophy, it's amazing how it works. Let's say this girl or boy, this is studying, doing a master's, even a bachelor's in philosophy. You know what they do? They study about their philosophers, no doubt. They study about Socrates, they study about Plato, they study about Aristotle, they study about Martin Luther King, they study about St. Thomas, whatever. There are so many philosophers, Western philosophers, Hume, Immanuel Kant, etc. You know what they do? They don't simply study. They are sent to Greece for a summer. Literally. So that student can just go back centuries and relive the life of Socrates and go to Parthenon and not simply see this, not go for a picnic. No, you sit there and you observe Parthenon and you think of Aristotle and Socrates and you just immerse yourself in that past. Yeah, this is the type of experience they give to these people who study, so that when they come back to America, they are now very clear. They've studied the philosophy. They have at least got a mock experience of being in Greece, being in the same place where these Socrates and Pythagoras and all these people lived. And so now look at these people. When they come out of this curriculum, how will they be? Look at their identity. They will be staunch. Their patriotism will be 100%. This is why I tell our students, this is why America is a great country, patriotic country. Because nobody can shake their patriotism. They may fight, Republicans may fight with Democrats, this, that, all this will happen. But when it comes to patriotism, my God, you cannot beat an American. You cannot beat an American. And I'm finding reasons why it is like this. This is one of the reasons. Why I said all this. Look at this. Plato and Socrates derived some of their thoughts from India. Okay. During that time, the ships that took off from India, they took loads and loads. They were filled with books. And they were transit in Arabia. And Arabia had schools where their only job was to translate these Sanskrit books into this Arabian language. And then those were translated later to Greek and other languages. This was a full-time job. Full-time job. There is an entire Raj Vedam will talk to you about all these things. So now we are here. We are saying we've got all these great philosophies, but nothing is really available in the mainstream yet. Correct? There is not even a philosophy department in India that can talk like this and talk about Adi Shankaracharya proudly, Ramanujacharya proudly, and in the terms of giving, hey, Indian, you are You are born of the blood of these people. Like that, that kind of a thing has to be given. It remains to be done. So that is why I'm saying Adi Shankaracharya is very relevant to us today. And somehow we have to bring the message, distill it down to the youngsters. And it has to come in the books and things like that. Okay. So that is one reason. And today, of course, if you want to study Indian philosophy, about 25 years ago, in the US, there were only 2 departments that could offer PhDs in Indian philosophy. Today, there are dozens and dozens in the US that you can study, quote unquote, Indian philosophy. In India, if you have to study Indian philosophy, I don't know. I've not looked into it so much. I need to discuss more with our professor friends here. And some of you may know more. But I need to understand more about what is the focus. Is it a Eurocentric study of India? Means philosophy as a subject that we are taught by the West how to study philosophy. That means I will be projecting Immanuel Kant on Shankaracharya. I'll be projecting Mark Twain on Adi Shankaracharya. I'll be projecting Bertrand Russell on Adi Shankaracharya. If you study it that way, you won't get it. Correct? So there is a lot of opportunity here. So we must educate ourselves. We must educate the youth. And we must look at the curriculum that is there in India and, focusing on India. And then bring about changes in the high school and the college curriculum. And so there's a lot of opportunity here. Therefore, I see Adi Shankaracharya being very relevant to all of us. Because once the Advaitic vision becomes clear to you, everything else falls in place. Vishishtadvaita falls in place. You can understand it very quickly. Duality, Madhvacharya falls in place. You can understand duality. So Advaita gives room for all these things. Correct? So my friend, he is a Vishishtadvaiti, good friend. So he will tell me, hey Jay Kumar, I am a Vishishtadvaiti, but Shankara is something else. After this we need to go there. Like that he used to talk. He used to tell me. And so it doesn't matter. We are not interested here in comparing Vishishtadvaita and Advaita, which is better and all. We don't need. But I'm saying the opportunity is so much. We have given all these philosophies to the rest of the world. So it is our responsibility to make it available to all of us, our families and our children. So the opportunities are huge. The last thing I want to mention is this. What do we do on the day of Shankara Jayanti? And somebody asked me about something else the other day. So that's how I got this idea. What exactly do we do? Well, it's not difficult. What do you do on Ramanavami day? Well, you chant Vishnu Sahasranamam, you chant some stotras of Rama, you chant Hanuman Chalisa in praise of Hanuman, and then do some Rama stotras, etc. Like that, you chant here shlokas of Adi Shankaracharya, and you can chant, of course, if you know Bhajagovindam, you can chant because it is composed by Adi Shankaracharya. You can chant anything else. Guru Padaka Stotram, you can chant. And then if you have studied the Bhashyam of Adi Shankaracharya, then what some of us do is we will read the Bhashyam. So today what I did was, for about half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour, I read Shankaracharya's Bhashyam of Brahma Sutra. The Yushmat, Ashmat, Pratyayoho. So Vishaya Vishayinoho, like this it goes, and then it goes on and on. So we read the Bhashyam. That is how we remember Shankaracharya. So various ways of remembering it. And children are there, no problem. And you ask them, you teach them about Shankara's story, they will, and you make them enact the drama, they will enact it. Why not? And we long ago, I don't know, some of you Houstonians will remember it. So we all enacted the drama of Shankara's life. And so all these are ways in which, and then of course we have, we do Shankaracharya, we do a puja for Shankaracharya, Archana for Shankaracharya. So we can chant Ashtotara Shatanamavali of Shankaracharya after we break here for a couple of minutes. So I'm happy to have shared. I took almost an hour here. It's 10:05 here. But in particular, I wanted to mention to you the relevance of Adi Shankaracharya and how that is still so untapped, and it's an area to be explored and furthered. And so that our government, we need to pray that our government also seems to recognize the importance of all this, but somehow the time hasn't come. So opportunity is huge. But first and foremost, we want to understand. In this course, we want to understand properly the subject matter. Once we understand the subject matter properly, then suddenly all areas open up, and it really frees us to do what we like to do. So thank you all very much, and let's conclude now. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.